Hello and welcome back to the MacGuffin Tales, where we're here to talk about Adolescence, the second cut
Again.
again. Yes, I'm joined here today by Ala. Dario, unfortunately, was murdered by a little child.
Very dark.
No, just kidding.
I think we're just like creating the lore around the situations when Dario is not here. I love
Every
it.
every episode, he dies of another kind of death. No, it would be interesting to have him here because um, I think his opinion of the second episode is a bit different than yours, Ala, and I guess a bit closer to mine. But yeah, I'm here to represent. We're here to talk about the last episode, or episode 3 and 4 of Adolescence. And episode 3 is probably like we said, it's the flashiest episode, the most interesting episode. Um, yeah, it's just a scene in a interview room, but I mean, yeah, it's
Mhm.
theater, it's cinema. How Scorsese would say.
Oh. Well, I think I already mentioned last time that this is my favorite episode in the show. Um, I just wanted to see the ratings of all the episodes because I know what we said our favorite episodes are, but I'm wondering if it aligns with what other people rated them as well. So episode 1 is 8.8, episode 2 is 8.1, episode 3 is 9.1, and episode 4 is 8.5. So I would say, yeah, it pretty much aligns very well with how we rated them, I guess, because although here episode 2 is rated lower than episode 4, which I personally don't think I agree with. But yeah, interesting.
I liked episode 4 a lot as well. I think my least favorite one is episode 2.
Mm.
I just wanted to say that maybe episodes 1, 3, and 4 are the most gripping in a sense because you're just there and keep watching. I guess that's also one of the advantages of the one shot that you're so immersed that you don't stop. I mean,
Hmm.
it would be interesting to see if there is any statistics from Netflix. I'm sure they won't publish this, but internally it would be interesting to see how long people keep watching these episodes and when do they stop, and if it's different for other types of shows that are not filmed
Mm.
in a one shot.
Hmm. Why would you want to stop?
Yeah, I mean, in episode 3, I guess
No,
it's so
episode 3
gripping.
especially. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm not surprised to see that this is the highest rated episode, obviously. Um, so yeah, should we start? Should we go
Yeah, I
right
just
in
just
with it?
just to set it up a bit. I mean, it's something that is done, I don't know, often in cinema, but it's fun in other series and other films. Um, I guess it reminds me a bit of Mindhunter as well, where you have like a criminal talking to a detective or Hannibal Lecter, if you will. Um, and yeah, it's just a conversation between two characters, but it's so fascinating. So
Hmm.
yeah, and yeah, maybe if you want to get started because you saw the episode twice, so I guess it's a bit
Hmm.
fresher in your memory than mine.
I wouldn't say it's already been, I think, a week or longer that I rewatched it, but yeah. Um, but just to say something about what you just mentioned, uh, now that you were saying it, I kind of thought to The Silence of the Lambs. Of course, obviously, Jamie is not as hardcore of a villain. He's not necessarily a villain at all in the classical sense. But that's just what I thought about, like this psychology of human interaction, between a person who is, well, she's not necessarily, Clarice is not necessarily evaluating Hannibal Lecter, but there's still this like psychological manipulation going on. And this is, I guess, what's going on in this episode as well, very much so.
Yeah, that's a great point that it's psychological manipulation. It's like a chess game. It's like a cat and mouse. It's a back and forth.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's what really interesting. Who gets the upper hand in the conversation? Like what angles are they playing?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, but also even more so is what we have to keep in mind is that, of course, Hannibal Lecter is an older, much more experienced man, and Jamie is a young boy. He is a little boy. So it's more of a study of how a little boy like that who committed such a heinous act thinks and justifies his actions. And just to like kind of a character study in a way. And obviously for her, she has to evaluate what um motivates him and what um led him to do such a thing,
yeah.
or whether it even happened. I mean, I guess in a way.
It's interesting. You mentioned he's a kid, but I was just skipping through the episode before we started recording just to
Hmm.
refreshen it a bit. And I mean, he is really intelligent, at least in this episode. His depiction is completely different than in the first episode where he was shocked, where he was a little boy. And this one, he is in control of the room in most or some situations. And yeah, I would say he's
That's a good
very,
point that we will, I think, talk about the control in the room.
yeah. But you could already tell a bit in the first episode. He was very smart in what he was saying and what he was not saying. And in this one, he's a bit more aggressive in
Hmm.
um yeah, getting something out of people, getting a reaction from
Hmm.
do you remember the actress name or the character's name?
The character's Brioni. The
Yeah.
actress, I, to be honest, don't know her name, but let me quickly check.
Pironi, who is sort of
Erin
like
Doherty.
Erin Doherty. She's, I guess, like a psychologist or uh, do they
Yeah,
mention her?
she's a psychologist. Okay, let's start from the very beginning. So we find ourselves in episode 3, which is 7 months after the events that are happening in episode 1. So pretty much after the murder happens. Uh, we follow the character of Erin Doherty, Brioni, who is a psychologist and is tasked to make a psychological evaluation of Jamie. She is hired by his defense lawyers, so she is doing this evaluation for the side of the defense, but she is an independent specialist, so her job is really to evaluate the possibility, I guess, that he is indeed responsible. First of all, I guess, I'm not sure if that's how it works, but second of all, if he's capable of such a thing, I guess you could say. And second of all, if he knew that he was doing, I guess that's just generally always a part of those things of psych evaluations that if a person committed something, that they were aware of what they were doing. And in this case, yeah, she is in this detention center where he is being kept. I think um, this is for, I mean, I guess young offenders, and he is being kept there with other kids that committed some crimes. I think in the beginning of the episode, he kind of mentions the fact that um, I'm not really sure what that is supposed to mean, but basically that he's being kept with the kids that maybe have some psychological issues or um, yeah, are maybe mentally not well. Although, of course, the begs the question, if you are well mentally, what are you even doing in such a place? So I guess that's something he mentions in the beginning of the episode, that he is being kept there, although he could be somewhere else, like in another facility. But yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter for the story as much. And the episode is just basically a conversation about, like, an hour-long conversation between Jamie and Brioni. This is their second conversation, and she is the second psychologist that he has to speak to. So the first one was a male. He was talking to him for about 5 sessions, and we find out that Brioni is supposed to also have 5 sessions with him. This is their second session, and it seemed like they kind of hit it off in the first session, because it seems like she was able to build rapport with him where he kind of feels comfortable with her. And as we get into the episode, so just like already to go a little bit into more detail, um, the episode starts kind of on a positive note, if you could say that. So he is being very nice to her. He's being very flirty with her. It's almost, and it's a very big contrast with the Jamie that we knew from episode 1, where he was completely distraught and shocked and stressed. And in this episode, he is just yeah, a completely different character, actually. And so um I think the way that his behavior develops throughout the episode, we will probably talk a little more. So I will stop here for now.
Yeah, but I guess we're in Brion's, or we see it from Brion's point of view, and we also get to sort of try to understand what motivates Jamie. And the episode, I think, starts with her coming into the facility and ends with her as well. So I guess that reinforces that it's sort of her point of view. But yeah, you're right. At the beginning, it's very friendly and flirty, if you will. And she also brings him a hot chocolate and a sandwich that she had made with cheese and pickles.
Mm-hmm. Which apparently is a whole thing, and everybody's talking about the sandwich and the symbolism of the cheese and pickle sandwich. Maybe we will too. I don't know. Let's see where this goes. But also, this is the first, and I guess more or less the only episode where we are watching the story from the perspective of a woman. There are other female characters, but I think we already mentioned last time that yeah, I don't even know how to say that, but the female characters are there to contrast the male characters. So the male characters are mostly always in focus, and I this is the point of the show, right? That we explore the masculinity angle, but just to like counterpoint the masculinity, we need some feminine energy as well, and this is, I think, what comes out very well in this episode. I love this episode.
Yeah, I mean, the camera follows Sarah along, like you said, at the beginning, and then at one point during the conversations, she steps out. We will get to that. But yeah, it's her point of view.
Also, it is probably the most theatrical episode out of them all, like in the traditional sense, because we are just sitting there with two characters. I mean, there are some other characters along the way, but they appear very episodically, and here we just have a whole scene, almost the whole episode. There are just two people talking. And in the previous episodes, we switched a lot between different characters, right? And I mean, the fourth we will talk about later, but here you just kind of see the also the how should I put it? How the actors are doing a great job. They had to learn all this text first of all. We were talking about it as well yesterday. I think that they had to learn all the text, but there is probably some room for improvisation. So if there's anything going on, you are kind of like living the character, um, and you can kind of play off of each other, because obviously he is a first-time actor and he's doing an amazing job. But she is probably a more experienced actress, and so she is kind of helping him through this whole process.
Exactly, and as you shared a clip with me where the actors talk about improvising for this episode, and in one instance, Jamie sort of yawns, and I think, yeah, Erin just gets stuck to him or replies something just to bringing back in. I think that moment is in the episode.
Mhm.
Yeah, you also wanted to mention which take is this? Which take did they use for this?
So this is take 11. The final take that they chose for the episode was take 11. And it was shot on day 5 out of 5. So, but it's kind of, let me think, because they, I think, were making 2 shots a day.
That's right.
Wouldn't that make it then, I don't know, wouldn't that be like 10 takes on day 5? That would be then the 11 would be like an extra take then, no?
Yeah, probably. But what I also
Or I just can't count, which is also quite a possibility.
no, that sounds logic what you said. When I also read that the third episode is the first episode they film. Which
Really?
yes,
Wow. Okay.
which Stephen Graham mentioned that that was a good decision because it gave Owen Cooper is his name. Yes, the opportunity to settle into the role
Yeah, yeah,
and get comfortable.
that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes it's great to start with a challenging episode just to give the actors that ability to play and to get used to it. Sometimes it's better to do logistically difficult episodes first because you don't know if you might get the second shot because of weather and whatnot. But yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention that from the camera perspective, the one shot, I guess, in this episode can limit you a bit in the sense that usually if we have dialogue scenes, then we cut back and forth between the faces of the actors. But here, you either have to show them from the side of the profile, or you just focus on one character. And I think in the beginning of the episode, the camera is sort of pointing down towards Jamie in some instances. And at the end is sort of pointing from down up to him, especially in the scenes where he sort of gets a more violent, and for example, the scene where he throws away the hot chocolate. And I think at the end as well, the camera is pointing down towards Erin's character. Yeah, so I guess just sort of to emphasize their emotional state or who is in control or how they feel.
Yeah, there are some other things that I noticed, but maybe we can first get to like the content of the conversation a little more before I mention it. But so if we go back to the perception of Jamie that we have by this episode, right? So we saw him in the first episode and we followed him throughout. And we there in this episode, we were kind of on his side. So he is this innocent, lost boy. And we are, for the majority of the episode, probably convinced that he hasn't done anything wrong. Look at this little kid. And we are following him with his parents. And so we kind of take on a role of his parent in a way that we kind of follow him through this journey together with his dad, right? And in this episode, he's a completely different character. So we first meet him as this flirty boy who is kind of uh, joking and flirting with the psychologist, who is a young woman, um, who he doesn't fail to mention is a pretty woman, right? She is a beautiful woman, and of course, doesn't escape him. And so then first she starts talking to him about more general things, which he also laughs at first, because like, why are we talking about this? Um, Before then going towards the topic of masculinity. But the way that she structures the conversation is she starts talking about his dad, um, which he is very closed off about. So he doesn't really want to talk about it, or doesn't seem to be very open to talk about his father or his grandfather. He doesn't understand why they have to talk about this. She then explains it to him, saying, I could ask you about masculinity, but this doesn't, it's not anchored in anything. So that's why I'm asking you about your dad, to see what your picture of masculinity is. Um, yeah, so then as soon as the conversation starts getting a little bit more serious, Jamie starts getting a little bit more serious too. So I think what is definitely changing drastically is this kind of demeanor that he has in the beginning is switching into a more domineering side of him, right? He also talks about women. He also like talks specifically about his mom as well. And again, I feel like um, just like in episode one, it's the same in this episode, where his mom is just getting mentioned as some side character. And this is what's interesting to me, because it seems like she doesn't play as important of a role in his life. We talk a lot about his dad. I think there is constantly actually some insinuations about possible abuse that is happening in the family from the side of the dad. I personally, from what we see throughout the show, don't think that it's a thing, don't think that it actually happened. But first of all, we hear it in the beginning of the first episode, where the detectives are talking about it, and they are kind of asking each other, what do you think of the dad? Do you think there's anything there? I think it's always a possibility, and it's something to definitely to be considered, because obviously such behavior doesn't come out of nowhere. Um, and then also, maybe in this episode we are getting such hints, or we are just led to believe and to like sit with the possibility that it might be the case, because although Jamie never mentions anything overtly of this nature, he still doesn't seem he seems a little reluctant to talk about his dad. And then also, obviously, in episode four, where the neighborhood kids write the word nonce on the car, that is again another layer of it, right? So, um, yeah, I think I'll stop here for now.
No, but it's a great point. I mean, yeah, he doesn't view men equally than women, and we are led to believe that there might be something going on with his dad. I also think that it's just to throw us up, or to keep us as the audience thinking, okay, what could have been, or yeah, to keep us guessing what the actual motive is. But going by episode after watching episode four, I mean, for me, it's Stephen Graham that Eddie Miller didn't abuse him. Maybe he was loud and had outbursts, but yeah. But it's still interesting that, I mean, still interesting to think about why does he not want to talk about his dad? That why is he so defensive about it in the beginning? Um, yeah, I have no clue right now, thinking about it out loud.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's just something we can speculate. I don't think, I mean, it's probably, you can think about it, you can talk about it, but I would say that generally if there is an episode where we get a glimpse into how maybe males in general, but more specifically kids, like young boys, think like, or just their patterns, or yeah, how they justify their own behavior. This is the episode for that, right? Um, and obviously the topic of incels is going through the whole show. To be honest, for me, still, it's more of a setting than a very specific thing. Um, I think that it's just kind of to show the internet culture that like seeps through, um, no matter what the family life is like or what the school life. Well, okay, in school it's also very prevalent in this show at least, but um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's very important for the show, of course, but I still feel like it's not as it's a setting, and it could have been some other reasoning, and yet the show would still be the same or very similar if it was not incels but some other thing.
Hmm.
But of course, they are exploring this male versus female kind of topic a lot here, and obviously in this episode as well.
Hmm.
Um, and if we go a little bit deeper into it, I think what's how should I put it? So when they are talking, he then mentions a few things, and Brioni kind of doesn't interact almost, or doesn't respond to certain things he says, and then he confronts her about it. So when he says that he's ugly, then she doesn't respond to that, and then he gets really mad about it and says, "You're supposed to say I'm not." But like here again, we see first of all, she's not there as a person; she's there as a professional more so. Like her interaction with him is not as equal as he might think that it was, and um, that's what she also says. My opinion doesn't matter. I'm not here for that. I am here to see what you think. And so he clearly, Jamie needs validation. He clearly is looking for, well, yeah, a validation, for some form of validation, or um, someone to kind of reassure him of something, right? Um, and that's what he doesn't get from her, and that's what makes him really mad. Um, and I think that's when he starts to assert his dominance over her, right? Because despite the fact that um, well, his opinion of women is kind of, we see it through the lens of, yeah, of like incel culture, dominance, that women are inferior to men kind of thing. Still, I think he knows that women do have certain power over men, right? That's what this incel culture is all about. And so for him to again be confronted with that, um, that's what kind of makes him very antagonistic. And then the whole thing, the whole conversation just spins out of this, right?
Yeah. Um, that's a great point that you mentioned that from the script that Brioni is in the role of a professional, and the way she asks the questions and the way she gives Jamie information. I mean, she doesn't give him information. She doesn't judge him. She doesn't, yeah, pass value judgments on his actions, or she doesn't comment on. She doesn't express her opinion.
Mhm.
And yeah, the way she asks the question is also very sort of sensitive. They are exploratory questions. She clarifies. some topics or information to him about why she's doing this or what's the point of this. But yeah, on the other hand, Jamie, like you said, he wants her approval. I mean, they're talking on different levels, right? Jamie wants her approval, yeah, to be reassured that he's worth something, or yeah, he wants sort of an emotional connection.
Yeah, and I think, well, this approval, right? That's exactly what we're talking about, because here, okay, I have too many thoughts now. I don't know where to start. But first of all, when he starts screaming at her, right? He says, "You do not control my life." And then a beat after that scene where he screams at her and says that, he says, "Can I get a hot chocolate, please?" And I found this like just an amazing scene, because it's like he oscillates between this dominance and aggression and search for approval, right? It's just like kind of going from one thing to another within such short spans of time. It's just fascinating to watch. But another thing is, of course, it kind of is parallel to the relationship with Katie, right? So, and the whole situation that happened in school, and his his relationship, I guess you could say, with her, where he asks her out because she is supposed to be weakened by the fact that her nude pictures were leaked, right? So he thinks, okay, now she is weak, so I can get her now, and yet she doesn't play along with that, right? So that's why she still rejects him, and again he is forced to sit with this rejection, because again it's he is confronted with the fear of being unwanted, or
Yeah, rejection or that he's unwanted is a good word. I mean,
yeah.
just here, this is where his dad might come into play, because he also feels rejected from his dad, like his dad uh, turning his head sideways during his football practice and whatnot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so go ahead.
yeah, no, the oscillation is a great point. I mean, this is where I don't know if psycho is the right word, or maybe Daniel might use it in this context as well. But yeah, the
Pursuant.
switch between these two extremes in such a short time frame. I mean, very dominant on the one hand and very submissive. I mean, submissive no, but very passive on the other. And he's not able to talk to people on a in between those two extremes.
Yeah, I think it's just generally going into the topic of um maybe men in general, and specifically young boys, not being able to process their emotions, because I think in general we are not very connected to our emotions, even women. We are not, I, at least in my culture, I don't know how it works somewhere else, but um we are never taught to even understand what we're feeling, right? And I feel like this is a case in a lot of families, where parents just never teach you what you're feeling, how you go through these feelings. In, I think, generally European or European focused cultures, we tend to vilify certain emotions. Like if you are angry, this is a bad emotion. But in fact, all those things are emotions. They tell you something, they all serve a purpose, and we are never taught that. But at least, as much, like, you can judge it the way you want it, whether it's right or wrong, but at least girls and women are considered to be more emotional. So in a way, women probably are more connected to their emotions than men, and men are just forced or taught to suppress, and that's it. That's the strategy, right? So I think, especially when you are a teenage boy and you have so many things uh, that make you like not emote, but kind of make you emotional. You are going through an emotional time of your life. You react to everything, right? And especially that time is probably very critical for uh, processing emotions and being able to learn that. And this is so obvious that this is not happening in this case.
Yeah, that's true. Totally agree with what you said. Yeah, and we can see this a bit reflected in the families we get to know through these episodes. I mean, the second one with Bascom and his son Adam, a little bit that in the end they do talk about what they want to do, that they go on a dinner together. And, well, in the Miller family, they do seem very open and like a nice family, but maybe what we don't get to see is how they talk about their feelings. I mean, I guess they don't because they, yeah, like we know that Eddie wanted Jamie to become a man or to toughen up, but he never told him that directly, I guess, or yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's one part of the communication that was missing. Yeah, maybe another aspect, I would say nowadays that sort of how to put it, that role or that stereotype, no, not stereotype, but that idea of men not talking about their feelings is maybe has gotten a bit better in the 21st century. But I guess the other difficulty that comes with it is like the political correctness of some things and being to talk about sex and whatnot and how to approach women and what's correct and whatnot. And maybe that contributes to this insecurity is how do I communicate that I like a person or what's correct and not.
Well,
I can't
that's
say for
also what
sure.
I was thinking, because I feel like they are, I mean, obviously, it is a pressing matter. It happens. Crimes like this happen. As a person who watches true crime, I can attest to that. No, but like, it's a thing, right? It's not something that was invented for the show. But still, I feel a little bit like I live in some kind of an echo chamber where men are much better at communicating. Uh, they know what to do and what not to do, you know, like in terms of just general behavior. I'm not specifically talking about speaking to women, if you like, if that's even something you can say. I don't know. Just generally, what is allowed in today's world to say or not to say, you know? And for me, it's kind of a little bit shocking that it's not as widespread, but at the same time, if I think about even, I don't know, just if I look at the family that is described in this show, right? It's just a normal family. We just see it. We see it in episode 4. And they are actually, I would say, on a better side when it comes to communicating, living together. They seem like a caring family. Well, they are 4 people in the family, right? Um, and yet such a thing happens, you know? So that's also what the creators of the show were talking about, that the and what we mentioned in the previous episode, that a child is not just shaped by their family. A child is shaped by all kinds of other things, the school, the other adults in their life, and obviously the internet nowadays, right? So, um, where was I going with this? Well, anyway, so I guess what I wanted to say is that for me, it's hard to imagine that because I just don't have the examples in my life, or thank God I don't, but I guess, but it's also just, I don't know, interesting to see this perspective, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I also don't have any examples that I know of, or I'm not in
We're living a
contact with.
privileged life.
Yeah, I don't know that many people who have like teenage children. I would say that probably over the last years, I mean, people open up more and it's gotten better in the sense of that people talk more about their feelings and with their children. But yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, this is just from reading and hearing, not from first, uh, how do you say this, hands-on experience or first first-hand experience.
First-hand experience, yeah. But
Yes.
also, it's just like I just remembered one specific situation or specific thing that Jamie says in the episode. So when Brioni asks him, um, "Is your father loving?" and he says, "No, that's weird." I thought this was amazing because and he also that's when they talk about his dad, right? So and then also she asks him, are any of your dad's mates women? And then he says, no, he loves my mom. So for him, it's like if there is a woman in your life, this has to be your partner, and there cannot be any other connection. So this is also an interesting point, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Like
So
again,
women are only seen as a kind of an object of desire, if you want.
yeah, maybe that's why he develops this notion because his dad, I don't know, because who knows what the circumstances are, but he doesn't have a lot of women friends, and then
Mhm.
Jamie sort of ends up getting this idea. But then again, I think it's to me it's very unlikely, or not unlikely, but it could happen in these circumstances or environments that this show sort of tries to describe or show us. Like we said, it's multiple factors that might lead to that. I mean, I see it less likely nowadays to happen, but again, it still can happen, and it's a combination of these factors we were talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I guess so because, of course, it depends because also in the worst cases, where children grow up in really bad families, such things don't happen. And yet, in a family like this, there is some other factor that plays a role, and then a child ends up murdering somebody. So I think you just never know. But at least what the show is doing well is showing us that at least showing parents they have to be more aware of their children and more participate more in their lives and somehow well play how should I say it like yeah just generally be more attentive to their kids.
mhm. Maybe let's mention the second half of this episode before we move into the last
Hmm.
one. I mean, I think sort of the middle of the episode, or one cut, not literal cut, but one pause in the between their conversation is when Jamie throws away the chocolate, and then he gets really angry, and then
Can I have
Bioni,
another hot chocolate, please?
yes, no, no, but Brioni leaves the room sort of to collect herself, I guess. And then she looks at the video uh, tape or the recording of the room. She has a short interaction with the security guard, and he asks her what she's looking for. Yeah, any guesses what she might be looking at or looking for, or
Hmm.
any guesses?
Uh-huh. Mm, I mean, I generally, now that you were saying that, I was generally thinking, what is the purpose of the security guard? Because he's this kind of like nosy character that almost like distracts her and disturbs her. And the interactions are kind of meaningful in a way, but still, it's not super clear to me what the purpose of them was. I just generally didn't think about it as much, probably, as like between her and Jamie. Um, I think she probably is just looking at his demeanor, his reactions when she is out of the room, and whether her being in the room and not being in the room affects him in any way, probably.
Hmm.
Because after all, she is a woman for him, probably first and foremost, and not a specialist or anybody else.
Yeah, yeah. Then when she gets back into the room, I think at some point he sort of teases her that You're scared of a 13 little old boy.
Yeah, that scene is shocking. Is amazing to me because he then says, "Did I scare you? Did I scare you when I shouted? I'm only 13." I
Mhm.
love that. This is so beautiful
Yeah,
and so disturbing.
yeah, exactly. I
So
mean,
he is aware of both things. He's aware of the effect that he had on her. He is aware that he is a kid, and yet, and this is interesting to think about. It's like, did I scare you when I shouted? You don't have to be scared of me because I'm a little boy. Or, look, I'm a little boy, and yet I made you scared. So it's kind of like an interesting
yeah,
juxtaposition to think
yeah,
about.
yeah. Both of those views are expressed in there, but that's what I meant when he says he's really intelligent in that way.
Mhm.
Like the power he has, or I don't know what's his intelligence. How could we describe this? His
Well,
type of
because in the very beginning, right, they evaluate him, and they also mention several times that he is a bright boy, right? So it's clear that he is aware of his actions. He is an intelligent kid. He is intelligent for his age, for sure, right? And um, that's how we go into the story, knowing that he is aware of his actions, of how he behaves. But then again, his he is justifying his actions with Katie, um, and the way that he interacts with Brioni is all through manipulation, right? We don't. He doesn't have to be stupid to misidentify or justify his bad behavior, right? It is done through logic. The logic, it doesn't necessarily have to be straight and clean, right? It's kind of like he says, I could have done something worse to her, but I didn't. Somebody else would, though. Look at me, I'm not so bad. And this is a logical thing to say in a way. The logic is very skewed, but he doesn't have to be stupid to say that. He maybe even does need to be intelligent to justify his behavior in that way.
I guess maybe the right word is sociopath. Sociopath. I mean, he knows how to manipulate people, or the sort of the way in the way that what his actions have of an effect, and or how he can assess control. Um, but he doesn't know, yeah, how to. He maybe this is what he's lacking. He he isn't able to show his vulnerability, right?
I mean, the thing is, he is probably not a sociopath because he cares too much.
All
He
right, sociopaths don't care about anything.
Well, no, not really, but sociopaths just have a very limited range of emotions. They have a very hard time learning the emotions that we learn, so like guilt and shame. Um, so I'm not sure that he would be classified as a sociopath, and I don't know if we should be talking about it. That's why I don't like it when Dario says something about it, because
Yeah,
like we are not specialized to talk about
yeah,
any of that. And
yeah.
to be honest, like even in the world of psychologists, psychiatrists, the line between sociopathy and psychopathy is very fine, and
Mhm.
nobody knows anything, it seems to me. So I just would refrain from saying that, but I would say that he is hurt, right? He is hurt by the possibility that he could be unwanted, undesired, and that's what this episode is about, more or less, right? He screams at her, do you even like me? Do you like me?
Mhm.
Before he is kind of like let out of the room. He needs to know that. That's important for him. It's
Yep.
important for him to know that somebody likes him, um, for who he is or despite what he is, right? And um, that's what he was trying to get out of her, but he never did. She doesn't, um, grant him that, or
I was using the term sociopath rather loosely, but
Yeah.
what I wanted to say is what you nicely said in better words than I did it, that he has this what did you say? Not lack of empathy, but
Well, yeah,
he,
lack of empathy, lack of remorse.
yeah, that he doesn't, well, a sociopath doesn't show guilt, and I guess he, at least in this episode, that
Hmm.
some of those emotions he isn't able to show. Like I said, the
Hmm.
vulnerability. He's just always trying to get something from people,
Hmm.
uh, and but he's not, like we said, he's not trying to open up or to help people out or.
Well, young delinquency is technically speaking a sign of antisocial personality disorder or like early onset. Because, like, usually if it manifests, it starts manifesting around his age. So maybe it could be possible. But yeah, I mean, of course, he doesn't showcase any remorse around the death of Katie. And I always still see, I always want to say alleged murder. Like, still, I'm on his side. Like, I got
Yeah.
tricked into it because I'm like, look at this little boy. Like, he can't have done that. No, but he doesn't show any remorse, right? He even says, as we already mentioned, kind of like, I could have done worse things to her, but I didn't. Look, I'm good. I'm actually not as bad as you think I am. Um, yeah.
I think he does show some remorse in the last episode. We will get to that.
The
But
remorse is not about the death and the murder. The remorse is about his situation.
that's true.
He's
Yeah.
sorry for himself, not for her.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you're right. Well, at least I thought it. He was showing some remorse because of the tone in his voice during the call in the last episode.
Hmm.
But I guess you're right. It's more about him than it's about Katie.
And another thing, maybe, I don't know, maybe to finish it off, what I mentioned in the beginning, that I first wanted to get into the content before I mentioned something else. In terms of how the episode was filmed, whenever he talks about his father and the camera kind of does a close up on him, um, the room darkens. I don't know if you noticed that, but also in the beginning it's kind of sunny, I think. I mean, we don't really see the outside, but we kind of have some kind of a window there, and the sun, I guess, shines through in the very beginning, and then as the episode progresses, it's raining, right? And then it
Yes.
ends with pouring rain. And so that's kind of the atmosphere that this episode is creating for you, I guess, because whenever he talks about his dad, the room darkens every single time. I thought that was also interesting.
Yeah, it's very subtle, but just rewatching
Yeah.
it right now, the sound of the rain, yes.
Mhm.
That's just from it's just sound added. And briefly before we move on to the last episode, I think, well, you mentioned the sandwich as a symbol of their relationship, because at the beginning it's like a peace offering, and then at the end it's sort of she's disgusted about the sandwich, um, which Jamie had bitten into. But I thought what was also really cool, I think we end the episode with Erin when Jamie is pulled out of the room by the security guard. I think she takes a moment and uses like a calming or a meditation technique to calm herself down. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to see, that she's a professional and she has some tools to,
Mhm.
okay,
But
yeah, calm
also,
herself down and yeah.
we do see, though, that she is there as a person. She is a person. She is a woman, and she was definitely affected by the conversation. And um, she does have feelings about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So she
Yeah,
was not just a cold professional there for sure.
no, no, no. I mean, it does really shake her, and you get to see that. Yeah, and she really tries to push through. And after the first break they have in their conversation, she tries to pull through and remain calm. But by the end, we get to see that she was really holding it in and really trying to, yeah, just go on with the conversation. Okay, so let's move into the last episode. I think it's a beautiful episode. I love this episode.
Okay.
I don't know how much I remember it, but I think it starts, well, this one 13 months later, or what was the title card?
I think so, yeah. It's about a year later.
And do you remember which take they used for this episode?
So this was take 16. Again, shot on shoot day 5 out of 5, which again doesn't make sense. Maybe this is all false information I've been feeding you. No, but apparently take 16.
Yeah, it's also complex that they drive around in this episode, so I guess that makes it a bit more difficult. What I saw from the behind the scenes that actually they had a driver on top of the van who was driving the car, I think, and then I mean Stephen Graham is just pretending to drive.
Okay.
That's also really interesting. Yeah, the episode starts in their home again, and it's Eddie's birthday.
And he receives a card from Jamie.
He receives a card, yes. It's not a great drawing, but
this is again something that I was thinking. It's like every time it's the dad. It's dad, 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 dad all the time. So, and then also, okay, the that I will mention later, I guess, because that's like the very end of the episode, but it's has the same exact idea behind it. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Lisa prepared breakfast for an English breakfast, but before he gets to his breakfast, he goes outside and he says that, or he sees that his van was vandalized by some kids or whatever, and they wrote nuns on the van. Can you explain to me what nuns means? Because I didn't look at what the exact word means.
Well, that means kind of a child molester, I guess you could say.
Okay. And as he walks out, I think two kids drive by with their bikes, and he shouts at them. He even talks to his neighbor real quickly if anyone had seen anything. They discuss about calling the I think they do actually call the police, right? The mom asked the daughter to call the police and just inform them of what had happened. I guess it wasn't the first time that this had happened. And then Eddie sort of is quite impulsive. I mean, in the sense that he changes the plans, and he suggests that they go out for breakfast and ice skating. And I think before that, he actually puts on his new polo. I think it's a polo that his wife had gotten for him, and they decide to go ice skating and then have English breakfast. But first Eddie wanted to take care of the painting on or the graffiti on the van. Is that about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, the general mood in the beginning of the episode is rather uplifted because that's his birthday, and they kind of are making plans to do something together with the wife and the daughter. But this all starts to escalate when they find the graffiti, and then basically, yeah, it's just increasingly tense, and Eddie is then also becoming aggressive because of the situation. When they are going to the shop to get some like paint remover, he finds out that he can't. That's not the type of paint you could remove, and the assistant in the shop that he talks to then starts talking to him about Jamie, and then he says, well, what we are kind of led to believe is that the assistant is also part of this incel movement, if you want to call it that. And then he kind of expresses his support for Jamie, probably exactly for that reason. And Eddie is just not having any of it. And he then, I think that makes him even angrier, and then this ultimately escalates in not a nice situation that is happening outside of the store, where he
Yeah,
moves the boys that are allegedly the vandalizers of the van, right?
I just wanted to describe Eddie's emotional state a bit more in detail. I think, yeah, maybe aggressive. I wouldn't say he's aggressive, but he's sort of manic or obsessed with getting things done in a certain way. And I think throughout the episode, he says that he wants to move on from the events that happen. And Lisa, I think, is his wife. She she wants to talk a bit more about some of the issues, or yeah, address them. But Eddie is just like, okay, we've already talked about this. I mean, they sort of convey that they had gone to therapy together, and they yeah had processed the events in some way. So that's why Eddie on this day he wants just to think of something else, which is totally understandable. He doesn't want to keep thinking about it, and that's why he gets so manic and obsessed with, first of all, cleaning up the van. I think on the way to the shop they listen, or there's this nice exchange where we get to see that they're a very, I don't know, nice family. They talk about how Eddie and Lisa met each other, and that happened through a sort of accident where Eddie, what was it? He slipped or something with his shoes during a dance at the school, and then he got wet or something, and then the daughter is a bit embarrassed about the whole situation after. Do they listen to a song as well on the way there? Yes, I think they talk about this one song that they played during that dance. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to mention something where the scene at the shop I thought was really interesting from a filmmaking perspective, because there you can see how much planning goes into the shot, because I think Lisa gets out of the van and takes her bag, I think, with her, and then when they get to the store, Eddie tells her to just that they look around, and then that they should get something. And then, well, yeah, Eddie gets this paint to cover up the graffiti. But when he gets out, when he had already paid, he first, yeah, throws on the paint on the van in a super messy way. He didn't even get a brush or anything. I wonder how many, yeah, I mean, I guess you mentioned it, 16 takes. Yeah, how many cuts? But also the way he throws it on is so bad. I mean, it's, yeah, it doesn't even cover the whole van. But what's interesting here is that, yeah, so Lisa and the daughter get in, and with the action of him having to put the plant in, before he puts the plant in, that's where the cameraman gets in. So by having this sort of interaction of him having to put in the plant, they generate the space for the camera operator to get into the van first, and then puts in the plant, the bag, closes the door, and then that's when they drive off. So I thought that was really cool. Like, they started to have that moment. They started in the beginning by having the mom have to buy the plant. So I thought that was so cool.
But are we then, the way back home, we are following from the back, right? So we are not
Exactly.
looking at them anymore. Actually, it's quite interesting why they decided to do this, because why do we not get to see their faces when Jamie is calling them?
Um, that's an interesting question. Yeah,
Because maybe it would be interesting to see, but they still decided not to do that. I wonder why.
I guess on the drive to the store, we get to see, they wanted to show us their interaction, the three of them together. So we see the van from the front. I think the camera is placed on the van, if I'm not mistaken. And like you said, on the way back, the camera's inside, because they want to show, first of all, Eddie's reaction, and then we get also Lisa's reaction, the mom. I guess because they show the how do you call this? The car or the speakers from the car, so it's sort of to show that Jamie's in there with
Yeah.
him, although it's just his uh he's just on calling them.
Hmm. Also, another thing is that maybe it is a way to kind of hide their reactions, just like they would hide it from Jamie if he was there, right? Because he thinks that he is calling to wish his dad a happy birthday, right? Um, so he is talking to him, and he thinks that he is only talking to his dad, right? He's not aware of the presence of his mom and his sister there, which I also find interesting. Why didn't they say they were there? But then as he starts talking about his plea and changing his wish to change his plea, Eddie again is kind of disappears and doesn't say anything, just like he did in the first episode, and that just how we know from what Jamie was telling Brioni he does when he kind of doesn't want to show his reaction to Jamie, or he is maybe disappointed in him, and that's what
Yep.
happens here as well. And then the mom and the sister say they're there, and
Mm-hmm.
that of course puts Jamie in a situation he didn't think he was in, or he didn't want to be in, because if he wanted to talk to them all he would probably ask for that.
Yep.
But again, like he is calling, and he entrusts his dad with this information, and he didn't want to tell his mom. I mean, apparently, right? He
Mm-hmm.
wanted to tell his dad that his dad is again the first person he goes to, and his dad is exactly the person who is not having it, right? He just disappears.
Yeah, and I guess that's maybe what Jamie is missing because Eddie isn't able to communicate this, okay,
Yeah,
how he feels is the skilled or that he
exactly.
and that's what Jamie doesn't learn. I mean, they
Hmm.
don't Eddie doesn't realize it, but that may be the thing. But yeah, we get to see the aftermath in this telephone conversation as well, in the sense that the family tries to have sort of a normal family dynamic, and I think the mom asks him how has the food gotten any better, and you can see throughout the dialogues that they have that
But again,
they
they are just escaping the conversation, right? They are not dealing with what was said. They just, and this is something I know from my own family. This is the kind of the how do you say, what's the word?
yeah, deflection or
No, wait, let me translate.
I can relate to that as well. For me, on the one hand, this is 13 months later, so at least I feel like Eddie and Lisa, and maybe with their daughter, they talked about this at length. I don't know if they did talk with Jamie about it, but maybe again, this is why they don't address these things here because um, Eddie just wants to have a normal day. They want to return to normalcy. So for me, it makes sense in this scenario on this day, but I agree that again they are deflecting. Yeah, did you look
Yeah.
up what's the
So
word?
it's kind of like an avoidance tactic, right? Because they don't want to address what was said. They just want to avoid talking about it, right? So that is, I guess, also showing the dynamic in the family, the way that the family communicates, that they might, before they were confronted with the situation with Jamie, maybe that they were exactly the type of family to avoid talking about serious topics before it just like crushed them completely and they were
Yeah.
forced to do it. And yet again, as you said, they are talking together, they are talking with the daughter, but they are again not talking to Jamie
Yep.
about it.
And I think then they after the telephone call they return home so they didn't go ice skating after all or for breakfast. And yeah, then the mom says, okay, should I just warm up the English breakfast with what's the pudding or the sausage,
Yeah, the
the heavy
pudding.
stuff? Yeah, the pudding, yes. And I think that there's a really nice scene between Eddie and Lisa, where they do open up about it now and where they ask each other, did we do anything wrong?
Mm-hmm.
What did we do wrong? And sort of how it is portrayed,
Mm-hmm.
we get to understand that, well, it's not their fault, or
Not
they're
entirely.
not entirely exactly, yeah.
Yeah, well, that is true. I mean, we've been talking about it for already this whole time.
Yeah.
But also, I think what's important is that it's been a year or over a year at this point, and yet there's still those ripple effects that the family is very much affected in their everyday life by this situation. And um, they are, I think, even mentioning it at one point in the episode about moving away somewhere.
I-
And the fact that if they did, then they would eventually be confronted with the same thing. It would just be a delayed response, but eventually people would find out. And apparently, this is a very high profile case, right? I think the whole country probably knows about it. And so it wouldn't be long until they are again, they would find themselves in the same situation. And this is something, well, this is something that is kind of hinted at in episode 4 when they mentioned that. And this is something that the security guard also says in episode 3. He's not as famous as your Jamie, right? Which means he did kind of get famous in a way through this, uh, through being accused of this murder.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's the daughter who actually mentions it. This wouldn't change anything. So yeah, I think that's a really important moment. And again, reiterating that they have to address it or they have to live with it, and there's no way escaping it. And that's really crushing. That moment changes everything, and
Mm-hmm.
it's never going to be the same. And yeah, they have to figure out how to live with it, how to deal with it, and it
Mm-hmm.
it 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 marks their family, I mean, internally, but also in the way they interact with their neighbors, the society, that okay, now they are known for being this family, and they will
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out, okay, how to move past them.
Mm-hmm. And the last scene with Eddie in the bedroom, you have an opinion?
Great scene. I mean, it's just you start bawling. I mean, the way just Stephen Graham just yeah, let's go, and how he starts crying. I saw an interview with him where he mentioned that the pictures on the wall are actually his children's pictures, and that's sort of what triggered also his reaction.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the way he breaks down is, you really feel for him, and
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing.
Okay. Look at that timing, though. We're getting pretty good at this.
Yeah. What did you think of the last scene? I thought you wanted to mention something about this
No,
one.
I don't. I wanted to hear what you said. What you wanted to say about it.
Yeah, that, and I also, I mean, here the teddy bear sort of, I read about this or heard about it, that's that the teddy bear, the way he tucks it in, it sort of symbolizes Jamie and his innocence, and yeah, it's not going to be the same anymore. So I think it's a beautiful way to end the episode and also the series. So any closing thoughts on Adolescence?
Great show. Love it. Also, just to, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but Owen Cooper, who plays Jamie, is now set to be in the next Emerald Fennell film, which is, I'm crying, of course, because I love Emerald Fennell and what she does.
Yeah.
I think the next film, oh, now I think it's Wuthering Heights, could that be? Um, yeah, it's the next Emerald Fennell film will be Wuthering Heights, which I'm not like super wild about it, but I'm excited for whatever she does, and I'm excited for Owen Cooper because this boy is amazing. I mean, we get to see a lot of child actors nowadays, but I feel like they don't, or at least in this show is like shot in such a specific particular way that we just got to fall in love with this boy and see him do those things. That was amazing. He's a brilliant actor. I hope he gets to be in more stuff and we get to see him
Yeah,
more.
I also I think he's awesome, and I hope that they really take care of him and that he gets
Mhm.
to uh act more if he wants to. But I hope that they really take care of him because he's such a treasure.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
generally, I mean, I watched a few short clips where he talks about like where he is doing interviews with Stephen Graham or with Aaron Doherty, and it's just so interesting to see him as a real person juxtaposed to his role. That's just I was shocked because I mean, of course, you get to see that sometimes with some actors, but you are not as astonished by it when those are like actors with experience that are much older. And in this case, yeah, that was just I was so amazed by that.
yeah. I guess just something that sprung into my head. Other child actors who were like this great. I mean, he wasn't that young, but maybe Joffrey from Game of Thrones was also like that's a juxtaposition. Who
I
was
think he
also
was not that young actually.
no, he wasn't that young, but as an example of a young actor who can play these like completely different roles, or where you're really
Mhm,
surprised, or maybe someone like Leo DiCaprio who was also working from very young and did some
mhm,
great roles. Yeah, so I hope he gets to act more, and I hope that
mhm.
that they take care of him and that he grows up as a
I
nice
really
childhood. And
yeah, I really wonder if he will go more into the theater world or to the film.
that's an interesting question.
Because
I
now, of
also
course, this film is like very theater based, I feel like.
I'm also really excited to see more of Team Graham and that team. I hope they
Mhm,
continue doing more movies or series in one shot. I fell in love also with Team Graham
mhm.
on this.
Stephen Graham is great.
Yeah,
Has always been.
yeah. He's he has been in so many things and Scorsese movies and stuff that you don't even realize. But yeah, yeah, he's great.
Still, the best role is Tommy from Snatch. No, just
Yes.
kidding. No, Stephen Graham is awesome, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean Netflix did get a lot of how to put it, not backlash, but it's often criticized for producing a lot of low quality TV shows and low quality
Mhm,
content. But I think I'm probably in the minority, but I think like Netflix sometimes does produce these little gems like Adolescence, or we mentioned Mindhunter, for example. And I
Was it
hope they
Netflix original?
Mindhunter?
Yeah,
Yes, I think so, yes.
really? Okay.
Yeah. So I hope they keep pushing for these unique um, shows or unique visions. I mean, this was Stephen Graham's idea, and what's his collaborator again? Uh, Jack Thorne. So I hope they give people and projects like this more chances, and we get to enjoy them. And lots of people watch it, like in the case of Adolescence, which I'm really happy about as well.
Yeah, I think Adolescence just generally broke the internet. Everybody was watching it, and of course, it talks about a very pressing issue and um, made a lot of parents uncomfortable, and a lot of people were even complaining about that. That it just like leaves you with this very heavy feeling. I have no problem with that. I mean, I love that actually. If a film does that to me, but apparently it's not a thing for everyone, and especially if you consider that it's a Netflix show. This is probably not what people expect from a Netflix produced show. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to always be comfortable.
Yeah.
You
I
have
mean,
to, if you want to talk about such things, if you want to show a problem, you have to be left with a very uncomfortable feeling. It's not only always about being comfortable and having a resolution. This show definitely does not have a resolution. It just leaves you with this very, yeah, uncomfortable dread that you feel for your future, for the future of the society in which such children, yeah, not exist, but like the society that produces such children. And I think that's fine. We can sit with it. We don't have to escape and avoid it. That's what the show was trying to show us through the avoidant tactics of the parents.
yeah,
We have to stay with it. We have to sit with it. And that's what the characters were not able to do and what was so hard for them to do.
for sure. This is hard for families to watch, but merit to the show that if it is, I mean that this topic is being discussed and yeah, that it is on people's minds. So yeah, hats off to the show. Anyway, that's our discussion for Adolescence. I hope you liked it. Thanks for listening and see you next time.
Bye bye.
Adios.
That's usually Daria's.